What is up YouTube, Scarido here, and welcome to a bit of a different video. So the YouTube channel HorrorStories had commented on one of my recent videos to do a reaction to his stories, and with him being a horror story channel, I thought, yeah, sure, why not? So at this moment of recording, he has 77 subscribers, which is 3 times the amount that I've got. So yeah, I just thought to myself, well, it's best to actually just take a look and just see what he has. From what I've actually seen, his videos are less than 3.5 minutes long. So what I'll do is, rather than just reviewing to one of them, because he only has 6 videos, I'm going to react to all of them, and they will all be in this actual video itself. So without further ado, we'll get straight into those videos. Okay, so this very first video is called The Birdman, Insanely Creepy Horror Story. So we're going to get straight into it.
I was 22 living in my apartment. I went to college and wouldn't really take much classes. I would skip a lot of lectures and go out with my friends instead. One late night I was returning to my apartment after being out with my friends, and I glimpsed up at my apartment window. I saw a weird, inhumane figure just standing up straight just behind my window. Its arms were skinny and long and had a weird beak-like shaped face. It was type of lanky but in a horrifying way. It was just the way it was standing, not breathing at all. Just staring at me. I ran inside my apartment, ready for anything to jump out. Once I reached my door, I went in and looked at my bedroom window that faced outside where the figure was standing. But no one was there. I thought it might have been my hung-up clothes that formed a man, since that happened sometimes, but I was uneasy. Uncomfortable, I tried to go to sleep. I looked at my clock and it was 3 a.m, so I forced my eyes to close. I woke up. I looked at the clock and it was still 3 a.m. At the same time, I tried to go to sleep. But this time, the inhumane figure was standing in front of my window, in front of me, just looking at me, staring at me. It looked like a birdman, a bird that was standing. It was the most strangest and creepiest thing I ever had saw. It lifted its arm towards me while I tried moving back, paralyzed on my bed. It then pointed its finger at me. That's when I woke up again. The time was still 3 a.m, yet there was no figure of the birdman in front of me. I felt a huge relief knowing it was a dream, but it felt so real. I tried going to sleep again. I'm not sure if it was a dream or not, but I woke up for the 3rd time. The birdman was in front of me again. He held a sign saying, "I will always be watching you." While doing that, he turned his head 360 degrees and looking straight back at me. For the 4th time, I woke up again, still at 3 a.m. That's when I packed my bags and left. I will never return there again. Not for school or not for college. I just hope that the 4th time I woke up was not a dream.
Okay, so with that story in particular, it is very reminiscent of the Seed Eater, which is a very similar type of creature from what he was describing. So yeah, that was definitely creepy. I mean, the fact that he woke up 4 times and then decided to leave, I mean, after the 2nd time I would have just gone. So without further ado, we're going to get into the next story. Okay, so this is the 2nd story out of the 6, and this one is called The Dead Hospital Patient Morgue Horror Story. So, here we go.
Before I tell you this horrifying experience that happens to me, I urge you, please, don't do what I do. Don't work like I worked. Just run. So I was working as a security guard, but also checked the tapes at a hospital. I would do this overnight. I would just sit there, staring in tranquility at the screens. The same screens that should have stayed the same. The same screens that didn't. I was looking at the screen which camera was facing the morgue where the dead bodies lay, and suddenly I saw a door open. It couldn't have been the wind because it was one of those doors with a handle. But when it opened, the door handle never moved. I thought that it might have been a glitch or something on the screen, so I went down to check if everything was normal. When I reached to the front door of the morgue, I suddenly felt a warm breeze brush behind my neck. I had the feeling that someone was standing behind me. I checked back as quick as I could, holding my hand on my gun, which was still on my gun strap. but no one was there. When I turned around, the door to the morgue was open. I felt scared, confused, lost all at once, horrified by what I saw. How could the door open? I thought. I suddenly moved into the morgue, cautiously with my hand on my gun, and saw no one here. Just bodies of dead people with sheets covering them as a whole. Suddenly, I heard someone say, "What's happened?" I turned back at the door. It was a girl who was around her early 20s. I thought she might have been one of the people in the rooms where the patients had been sleeping and God woke up. I answered, "Nothing, ma'am. You can proceed back to your room. Everything's fine." She just stood there, not replying at all. She tilted her head to the sideways, smiled, and walked through the door into the morgue. She walked right up to me. She sat on the bed where the dead bodies would lay, laid herself down, and covered herself with the sheets. I was horrified watching that. I didn't say anything. After what was 3 minutes, I said, "Ma'am, please go to your room." I got no reply. I opened the sheet, and there she was. The girl, eyes closed, head tilted, mouth closed, and not breathing at all. She was dead.
Okay. Well, I mean, that one was, again, quite interesting. I would say it is a bit strange with the whole feeling of breath on your neck, because the whole thing when it comes to paranormal stuff is that if there's supposed to be somebody dead, it's going to be a cold chill, not a warm breath. So that's sort of, I mean, it's still a good story, because I mean, have heard from people that it does actually happen. So yeah, that's story 2. We're going to get into story number 3. Okay, so this next one is called Insanely Scary School Lockdown Horror Story. Now this is something that unfortunately does happen a lot in America, so I am expecting this to be quite freaky.
So it was a Friday, the last day of school, and the week until on Monday. The only thing on my mind was after school, and I'm pretty sure everyone else was thinking the same. Nothing could go wrong today. I mean, it's just school. What is the worst that could possibly happen? So I was sitting in a class with 20 other classmates. It was a science lesson and we were learning about atoms when suddenly I heard a loud horn sound come from the speakers. It sounded like one of those sounds that came from the movie Purge before everyone would kill each other. My teacher looked worried and anxious and told everyone to go to the side of the room and under the tables. Everyone in my class looked worried. By then I found out we were having a lockdown. I'm pretty sure my classmates found out as soon as I did, and my teacher went to close the lights. Everything was dark. No light at all. I could barely even see where the tables were. The only bit of light was from underneath the door. We heard loud thuds in the other doors outside my class, and that rang a bell on my teacher. He said the most frightening thing you could say when your school is on lockdown and someone is right outside. He whispered, "I forgot to lock the door." I mean, how was that not your first priority? Well, after to get us all to safety. I couldn't really blame him. He looked like as if he was about to relieve in his pants, but still managed to slowly get up and approach the door. Suddenly, my teacher had reached the lock, but the door had opened just before, and my teacher got yanked out of the class. Me and my friend both went up to the door to lock it and shut it before the man could come in. I got so much goosebumps everywhere in my body, and that only boosted my adrenaline. I could hear the group of girls at the back crying, and some of the boys were shivering and still, while one boy and another girl came to help us. The man on the other side was pushing against the door, but we were stronger than him and managed to lock it. The man behind the door was banging on the door, screaming, while me and my friend slowly walked backwards, ready for anything. Suddenly, we heard 2 loud shots come from outside. We were worried that anything happened to our teacher, so we waited. After what felt like 5 minutes of waiting, everything was quiet. Me and my friend gathered the courage to walk up to the door and see what was going on. My friend unlocked it while I peeked. I saw the most confusing and horrifying thing ever. I saw my teacher with a gun in his hand, pointing it at a student. I rushed over to attack him and punched the back of his head, which made him unconscious. The second guy came out of nowhere when I lowered my guard, but luckily my friend came out and grabbed him, tripped him over, which let me and my friend grab him again and hold tight locking him. Soon the police were called, and both my teacher and the man was arrested. It still makes me think to this day, why was my teacher pointing a gun at another student?
That's certainly an interesting one. I mean, you sort of hear about all these type of things that happen in America all the time. Like, I don't think from memory here in the UK that something like that's happened. Or if it has, it's been something like 40 or 50 odd years ago. But yeah, straight on to the next one. Okay, so the next one is called Creepy Clown Birthday Horror Story. Now, if you have a phobia of clowns, I would suggest just skipping ahead. So, here we go.
Let me tell you one thing. Never have a clown at your birthday. It was my 7th birthday and my mom had invited people, who then invited people, and who then invited people. You get the point. It was a massive party and could have been the best I ever had. Could have. But instead, it was the worst. I never really liked clowns because I thought they were creepy and mostly because they were funny at all. Just dumb. While I was cutting my cake and everyone was singing happy birthday at the corner, my eyes glimpsed a clown just behind the side of the bush outside of my garden. He was smiling at me, breathing heavily. When I looked at him, I lost control of everything, but my mom called my name and my sense was back to earth. I looked at my mom to see what she was going to say, but when I looked back at my garden and at the bush the clown was in, he wasn't there. The only thing there was a red clown nose on the floor, ripped in half. So after that, we all went outside to jump on the bouncy castle we had, and there behind the side of the castle was a clown. He lifted his finger and started waving it back and forth to make me approach him. I freaked out but thought it was just part of the act since they weren't that funny anyway, so I ignored it and jumped the bouncy castle. Eventually I got tired and got out of the bouncy castle to get a cup of water. While I did, I realized my mom was talking to her friends, so I approached her and asked her about the clown. I told her it was freaking me out and not funny at all. But my mother replied, "What clown? We never hired any."
Ooh, okay. Yep. So that's going to fill my nightmares for tonight. Yeah, it's one of those sort of like typical sort of clown stories. Like, I've never had a clown involved in any of my birthdays, to be fair. Never seen the point of them, really. Like, if they're in a circus, fine, but having a clown round for a birthday, or even a magician, it's sort of like, they just seem a bit pointless to me, really. But we're almost at the end. But here we go. Next video, right now. Okay, so we're down to number 5 now, and the next story is The Shadow Man, Sleep Paralysis Horror Story. I'm not gonna lie, I have seen a Shadow Man before, in the sense of a actual sleep paralysis style one, but that was like a long time ago. But hey, one of those things, and here we go.
This event happened around 4 years ago. Till this day I'm horrified by what had happened. I just hope I would never, and anyone would ever have to experience what I had experienced. I was 13 and had a dog named Lucky. At that time I had a big fear of the dark, and whenever I would go to sleep, Lucky would be sleeping underneath my bed, and whenever I would feel scared or felt uncomfortable with fear, I would put my hand down and Lucky would lick it to tell me I'm not alone and everything was alright. I know it was kinda weird, but Lucky would help me sleep through the night and stop me from being scared. There was this horrible day where unfortunately Lucky, my dog, had died. I felt so sad. I was in my bed for nearly 2 weeks just crying and missing my dog. After I cried, I would normally a lot of the times go to sleep during the day and not much in the night, since my fear had heightened, and Lucky wasn't there anymore. However, I felt so tired, one day I decided to take a nap. Just a nap, in the darkness of my room. While I was sleeping, I woke up forgetting my dog had died, and I put my hand underneath the bed. I felt something lick my hand. I didn't think much of it because I forgot at that time and I was so tired because of the amount of sleep I was getting. After that happened, I went to go to the toilet to wash off my hand that my dog licked, but when I went to the toilet, I remembered my dog had died. The feeling of fear and anxiety had come to me as I froze, staring at my toilet door. I ran inside my bathroom and looked at the mirror. I saw what had stuck in my mind for all these years. On my mirror, and what looked like blood, it said, "Humans can lick hands too."
Okay, so that story is not quite what I actually thought it was going to be. I've heard that story before. Don't exactly remember if it was a bloke or a woman, but basically it was a intruder in the house. It wasn't actually a shadow man. But if you ever want me to, if you made it this far into the video and you want to know my experience with a shadow man during a sleep paralysis that I've had before, you know, just let me know in the comments below and maybe I'll go and discuss it. But now, on to the very last video. Alright, so here we are, the 6th and final video. So this one is called The Creepy Man Standing by the Window, Horror Story. So let's just get straight into it.
This happened around 3 months ago when I lived in New York in a quiet neighborhood. But at the time, the most scariest moment had happened to me and ever happened in my life. It was just another normal day Monday where I had to do my normal routine of getting ready for work. I had a company that I was running and I was very busy most of the time, but let's not talk about that. Let's go straight to the part. It was night and I was sleeping when I woke up to a strange tapping happening near my house. I was afraid it was at my window, but I thought it would be some kids trying to annoy me by throwing rocks. This never happened, so I don't know why I assumed that. When I looked out the window, the tapping had stopped. I saw nothing as it was around 2 a.m. The sky was a very dark navy blue. I looked around to see what I could observe, and then my eyes glimpsed the most freakiest thing I ever had saw. In the window in front of me in the next house, I saw a man standing there. I couldn't figure how he looked as it was too dark to see, and his house also had no light. He was standing there staring at me as I was looking at it with my left eye only poking at the side of the window. I don't know if he saw me, but the way he was standing made me think he did. All I could see were 2 white circular eyes staring at my window, staring at me. I went back to my bed frightened by what I saw and hoped that I was dreaming. In what felt like 30 minutes had passed, I went up to check if he was still there, but poking merely half of my left eye near the window. I could just see enough to see the window, but he wasn't there. The curtains were shut. At that moment, I felt a big relief and went back to sleep. It was the next morning and I went to go to my car to go to work, and I looked up the window where the man was standing. The curtains were half opened. I had no clue why, but had no care for it. I hopped in my car and went to work. When I came back, it was around 2 a.m., very late, merely forgetting about what had happened last night at 2 a.m. As I put the keys to my door, I looked up at the house, and there he was, the same man right behind the window. I stood there with my eyes wide and thinking nothing but having the feeling of fear. What felt like 5 minutes of standing and staring, I gained the courage to shout, "What do you want? Huh? I will call the police." Shivers went down my spine and every hair on my body stood up as I approached the window. The eyes were still staring at me as I approached, and yet I was literally face to face, but the only obstacle in my way was the glass. Yet I could still not see his face. Suddenly I heard a loud crash of something breaking and falling down in my house. I turned for a split second, looked back, and the man in the window was gone. I had no time to think as I couldn't react, so I went to see what had dropped and searched, but found nothing. Nothing was broken. Nothing. There was a note on my bed. It said, "I'm watching you." I looked out the window, but the window in front wasn't opened. The blinds were shut. The man wasn't there. How I thought. I looked behind me.
Okay, so that seems to be a incomplete story there. But yeah, I mean, it is a really creepy story, because you know, you always think that you do have that creepy neighbor that always sort of like stares at you. I mean, we all know someone who's like that, unfortunately. So yeah, that was all of the videos, so I will see you in the next one.